Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa. Buddhaṃ Dhammāṃ Saṅghāṃ Namasami. So when we talk about the final goal of Buddhism, there's not actually much to say. Actually, there's nothing we can say, really, because no words really come close. No. But usually people who are new to practice or have come to the monastery want to visit the monastery and then might be interested in the details of the deathless, but we just can't even really talk about it. But we can talk about the practice, we can say a lot about the practice, and we can never run out of things to say about the path and the practice. But we just can't say much about the goal. It's just by its very nature, it's beyond concepts, beyond words. So we just talk about the path, we talk about the practice. And it's not, I know, it's not as interesting, it's not as fun to maybe speculate about the deathless. So we don't really want to focus on that which is ordinary yet. The Buddha said focusing on that which is ordinary is the path to the deathless. So meditation on the body, hair of the head, hair of the nails, hair of the nails, hair of the head, hair of the body, nails, teeth, and skin. And just the having a body, the burden of having a body, and developing that perception that it's just totally ordinary, and that's the path to the deathless. So that's quite interesting. When Ajahn Ñāṇiko was last visiting here, I remember he did these tea time Q&A sessions, and remember there was somebody who asked, he was talking about this mula kammatthana, the 5 kammatthana, the hair of the head, hair of the body, nails, teeth, and skin, and how you focus on the mindfulness of the body as elements, the body as various parts, or we can do the corpse contemplations, the various stages of decomposition that the body goes through after it dies, and if it's just left. And there was a question, and this question is quite common, I found in the West, is, yeah, but isn't the body like this amazing, like, it's a miracle that like all the systems, they work together. It's unbelievable. It's an unbelievable miracle. And what about cultivating like this sense of wonder for the body? And Ajahn Ñāṇiko I don't remember his exact answer, but he said, like, yeah, that's one way of looking at it, but it won't liberate you. It won't lead you to the deathless. So it's like, why do we do that? Why do we focus on just these mundane, these ordinary things? So the Kruba Ajahns, they always come back to this very ordinary. There's a lot that can be said just about the ordinariness of the body and the burden of having a body and the liberating effects that kind of a contemplation or that kind of a reflection has. I remember being with the Wapananachat Sangha in 2016 and getting the opportunity to go and pay respects to Luang Por Ban. And I remember Tansu Hajo was there, I believe, at the time as well. And there's at Wapananachat, there was something like 20 bhikkhus and it was 18 or 19 different nationalities. And so there was a group of us went and got the opportunity to pay respects to Luang Por Ban and also got the opportunity to spend the night at Wat Doi Dhammachedi. And remember we went alms round with the monks there, and then we had the meal. And after the meal, Luang Por Ban was like walking around, and he came and checked us out, and he said, "Oh, there's many different shades here, many different shades of skin here in your group." And he said, "But after death, you'll all become the same color. When the body's rotting, you'll all be the same color." And I was kind of taken aback, like, did I misunderstand what he just said? It's usually not the way in the world, you don't normally greet people that way. But this is like a Dhamma greeting. So there's not so much that can be said about the final goal of Buddhism, but there's a lot that can be said about the practice and what we can do in the practice. We can focus on the breath, we can do body contemplation, we can do metta meditation, all these things to help overcome the obstructions, the defilements in the mind. And one of the very interesting teachings in the suttas is the Buddha says, pay attention to perceptions of resistance when you're practicing. So as we do these things, like the Buddha says, pay attention to perceptions of resistance. And then pay attention to letting go of resistance. So when we practice, there's part of us which sees the benefit of the practice, and then there's part of us which is resisting the practice and trying to find excuses, trying to not believe what the Buddha's teaching us, or believe the teaching, the Dhamma teaching. So like, for example, if I'm meditating on hair of the head, hair of the body, nails, teeth, and skin, and say, just maybe for myself, maybe like bringing up an image of like nails and the ordinariness of like fingernails, toenails, just this ordinary thing, and say, looking at the unattractive nature, and am I attached to these things, or what's their true nature? Or like you can do the 32 parts of the body, which is more than that. It's looking at the inside of the body. The first 5 parts are that which is visible on a human being, and so that's why the Buddha taught those first. But then the internal parts, the inside of the body, and think, thinking of the inside of the body, the various organs, and the Buddha said, take it like a bag of beans, open it up. There's mung beans, there's kidney beans, there's green gram, there's rice, there's all these different things, and you just lay them out saying, okay, this is this, that's what's in there, that's what's in the bag, that's what's in the skin bag, these various organs. And so practicing, and then the thought, but the body is beautiful. So that's a thought of resistance, that's a perception of resistance. Say, okay, where's that coming from? So, okay, come back to the practice. The liver, the intestines, the bones, looking in the bones, the various bones in the body, and thinking of these, contemplating these things. But the body is amazing. Resistance. So that's a thought of resistance. That's a perception of resistance. That's ridiculous to think about the body like this. Why are you thinking about the body like this? This is crazy. Why do you have to think about all the hair of the head, hair of the body, nails, teeth, and skin? Like, that's weird. That's why would you want to think about that? But it's only weird because it goes against the world. It goes against the worldly perceptions. It goes against the stream of the world. So this is very important. So we question these perceptions that we have, and things like bones in the body is just like Halloween just passed, the end of October, and it's like people will dress up as skeletons, and this is something that is like frightening. It's seen as like frightening. So, like Luang Por Cha decided to put a skeleton. This is kind of a tradition in practice monasteries to have a skeleton, and we're still kind of, in the big scheme of things, we're still kind of new Buddhism in the West. We don't yet have a skeleton in this Dhamma hall. And in America, that might be questionable, like whose skeleton is that, or what are you doing with a skeleton? But we do have a fake skeleton. It looks very real, and it's in the basement of the Monks Utility Building. So we do have one in the monastery, but it's not real. But if we think, like, well, why is it scary? Why does that bring fear up? Like seeing a skeleton, seeing bones, or what does that bring up? And we might think like seeing bones, seeing a skeleton might be bad luck or just inauspicious somehow. But then the crazy thing is we don't really stop to reflect that we're framed by one, we're held up by one. Or we might like intellectually know it, but we don't really know it. So like Luang Por Cha said, to contemplate the skeleton till you're absolutely sure that when you're moving, you're talking, as I'm talking now, the jaw is just, my face the muscles and the eyes and everything that makes expressions, but the skeleton itself is expressionless. It's just a jaw opening and closing. If you think of like eating in the hall, if you think of everybody as just skeletons, the mouth is just, it's not, there's no expression. So the flesh and the skin, this produces expression, but it's all held up by the skeleton. But then we're kind of like, we might be frightened if we see a skeleton. But then Ajahn Chah said, like, well, it'd be really frightening. What if you didn't have a skeleton? Just imagine what that would be like. And that would be really frightening. So the skeleton is something which it holds us up, and it's in there all the time. And then on the skeleton there is muscle, and this is earth element. So the skeleton, the muscle, and then plastered over with skin, what we think of as the skin bag. So if we have this teaching from the soles of the feet up, down from the crown of the head, a sealed bag of skin filled with unattractive things. And this is just very, very ordinary. It's just very, very much the way things are. And so this kind of contemplation is done to say, like, how much do we worry about the body? How much do we need to look after the body? How much do we attach to the body? How much importance do we attach to the body? How much hope do we attach to the body? How much fear do we attach to the body? So this is like these mental obstructions which can come up, which can keep the mind from becoming bright. How much do we consider the body to be me and mine? My body, it belongs to me. Or when I say my body, like it belongs to me, like what am I thinking of as me? Trying to find that. So this body contemplation can lead to all sorts of benefits in terms of other reflections that are linked with it. For example, the contemplation of not self. So the bones, the muscle, the skin, and then the whole body is filled up with blood. The heart has to pump the blood around the body all the time, and when we eat, the blood has to go to the stomach more, so we feel drowsy sometimes after eating, because the blood has to go to the stomach and be there more to kind of help the stomach along and processing the food, digesting food. And so the heart is always pumping the blood, circulating the blood around the body. And this is water element. So there's the earth element aspect, and then there's the water element aspect. And then there's wind, air element. That's the Vaya Dhatu, the breath, in and out breath. So that's downgoing wind, in breath, upgoing wind, out breath. But wind is also like motion, so the blood, the motion of the blood moving throughout the body, coursing throughout the body. And then the fire element is like the regulator, the temperature of the body. If that regulation goes just a little bit out of whack, then we can't survive. If the wind doesn't come in, if the wind doesn't go out, we can't survive without the breath. If the water element gets a little bit out of balance, we can't survive. And if the earth element gets a little out of balance, we get sick or we die. So the Buddha said then the causes of death are many, causes of life are few. And this is because when the elements just get a little bit out of whack. So if the body was really wonderful and amazing, it wouldn't be so kind of fragile. it wouldn't die. It wouldn't get sick. It wouldn't die. But the body is just conditioned. Any condition that arises has to pass away, and that's the insight that we're looking for. So the result we're looking for body contemplation is anicca, the insight into impermanence. It's like when the novice Dabba Malaputta was becoming ordained and getting his head shaved at the age of 7. And they were shaving his head, as the story goes, seeing the hair falling and contemplating hair and the impermanence of hair, and just attaining insight, attaining full awakening, attaining arhatship at that, just contemplating hair. So that's the path to the deathless. That's incredible. That's amazing. That's it's so interesting. Why is it like that? Or contemplating food. So like the food is something that we need for sustenance, and then the nutrition goes into the body. We're built up out of whatever food we've eaten growing up. But then it's like contemplating food and contemplating the body and the relationship between the two, that can lead to dispassion, which is a very important quality to have. So that can lead to dispassion, disenchantment, and then that leads to a quality we call nibbida, which is translated as like world weariness. And this is not to be confused with depression. Depression comes from intense negativity toward oneself and others that can lead to depression. But nibbida is a very, very wholesome quality, incredibly bright quality. And it's a very inward-going quality, so that it's when the mind is really turning inward and it's no longer taking refuge in the things of the flesh, of the body, of the world. And there's this sense of samvega, which is spiritual urgency, like, how do I get out of this? So nibbida it's a direct cause for liberation. So that's a very important quality to be like reaching out for nibbida. So just thinking about anicca a little bit, and this kind of core insight that we're looking for, and why is that so important? What does that do for us? Why is that desirable? Or why is the practice? Why is following the path desirable at all? The precepts and so on. Why do we undergo renunciation and seeming hardships in order to practice and see anicca, see impermanence? So the Buddha talks about freedom. Say these words like freedom, liberation, words that describe the realization of the deathless. And in that we can think about the various mental defilements, mental obstructions which come up in relation to the sense of self, the body, the world, and how those bind us. How we have a mistaken view that those things are going to bring us some sort of benefit. So things like anger or greed. We have a mistaken view that those things are going to benefit us somehow. And when we have, like, say, anger, like a critical perception, this is something I can speak from experience, like, I'm very familiar with. So, like, say, like a critical fixed perception about someone or something. Then, if I have that critical fixed perception, then I'm bound by that perception. That perception binds me. I'm forcing myself. I'm a slave to that perception in terms of I have to speak and act in terms of that perception. So if I have a fixed perception about somebody and I see them, do something that maybe reinforces my fixed critical perception of them, then it's like I'm bound to speak and act based on that critical perception. Or if they act in a way that goes against my critical perception, it's kind of like not in accord with my perception, then I'll maybe jump through some mental hoops and try to say, well, it was because of this and this and this that they acted like that, And then reinforce the critical perception because it's a fixed critical perception. It comes from ditthi mana. So that's not freedom. So we can say that's clearly not freedom, not mental freedom. But then in the letting go of fixed perceptions, then we can see that somebody might act in a way which went against our previous perception. Say somebody we know or somebody we can think of anybody who we might have a fixed perception about, and they act in a way which doesn't accord with that perception. You can say, oh, well, maybe I can, with that sense of freedom, the perception doesn't have to be fixed. So it's a big burden to hold fixed views, fixed opinions, fixed perceptions. That's slavery, that's a burden. It wears us out. And how incredibly freeing just to say, oh, it just is this way. I don't need to fix it. I don't need to define it. Things are just this way. Say, oh, that's what a relief. I don't have to, I don't have to scrunch up anymore in this tight, fixed, critical perception. So, this is really good, really free. And so when we come out of this and we start to train in this yata bhuta jnanadasana, so that's like knowledge and vision of the way things are. It's not saying things are this way, are that way, are that way. But it's just saying it just is like this right now. And I don't need to fix it in some way, I don't need to change it in some way. And that is so much different. Living in that way is not the same as ordinary people. So this sounds ordinary, it seems ordinary, and this kind of letting go, it comes from all these practices that the Buddha recommended and talked about, such as body contemplation, element contemplation, and so on. And it's just, it's freeing, it's liberating. We talk about nekkhamma, renunciation, nibbida, world weariness, and it's freeing, it's liberating. And something the Kruba Ajahns seem to like to talk about is like the likes and dislikes. These are connected with the worldly winds. So like with the way we get bound up by our likes and dislikes. It's just total slavery, total suffering. but it's so kind of ingrained. So the likes and the dislikes, these are bound up with the worldly winds. So there's the 8 worldly winds, there's 4 which are bound up with like, and there's 4 which are bound up with dislike. And the 4 which are bound up with like are known as the ita ramana, and the 4 which are bound up with dislike are known as the anita ramana. And the ita ramana is the like status, gaining of status, gain, pleasure, praise. So like, and the anita ramana would be like loss of status, loss in terms of like possessions, pain, blame. So these are the anita ramana. So we can think about those too, like how we're bound to the ita ramana by our likes, and we're bound to the anita ramana by our dislikes, by the things we don't want. So by wanting and not wanting, then say the Buddha talks about these, there are 10 causes of anger. Just reading this sutta the other day. And the first 3 causes of anger are if somebody speaks ill to us or speaks critically of us to us, either in the past, present, or future. So somebody in the past spoke critically of us and we're recollecting that, get angry. Somebody in the present is speaking critically of us, get angry. Where we have the thought that in the future somebody will speak critically of us, so we get angry. Those are the first 3. Or in the past, somebody spoke critically to somebody we like, so we get angry, recollecting that. Or in the present, somebody speaks critically to somebody we like, so we think about that, we get angry. Or we think that in the future, somebody will speak critically of somebody I like, so we get angry about that. So the next 3. Then there is, in the past, somebody praised somebody we don't like, so we get angry. In the present, somebody praises somebody we don't like, we get angry. We think maybe in the future, this person's going to praise this person I don't like, we get angry. So those are the next 3. So that's 9 causes of anger. And then the 10th one is, or one gets angry without reason. So that's like that was one of these kind of laugh out loud moments where you're reading something and you just laugh out loud even though you're by yourself. And it's like the thought of like objectless anger. So anger, you're just angry without an object. It's like anger kind of looking for an object, and that energy of anger is there, but there's no object. So one just gets angry without reason. But that sutta illustrates the way we get bound up by our likes and dislikes. So it's a very simple, easy way of just illustrating that point. So when we come back to equanimity, then we're less bound by those things. And when we reflect on anicca, we reflect on impermanence, then we're even less bound by those things. And when we give rise through our contemplations, through things like contemplation of the body, give rise to that sense of nibbida, then we're even less bound by those things. So the practice is freeing. And it's quite interesting because the practice, it isn't really about like getting bliss or getting something good or even necessarily getting happiness. It's really about freedom. But then when the heart starts to become free, like when we get freed from our likes and dislikes to whatever degree, the heart, which is, say, free of, say that we previously had a fixed critical perception about someone or something, and then we have an insight into perception, and we're free of that, and we're no longer bound by that fixed critical perception of someone or something. The heart sings. The heart just delights in that, being free of that. So that's what we would call, I guess you could call that like a heart-opening experience. It's really, it's felt in the body, it's felt in the heart. Yeah. So who knows why that is, and perhaps it's kind of different for everybody. But as we practice, then this gives us the impetus to keep practicing. It gives us faith. But then coming back to that resistance. So say I was talking about resistance in terms of contemplating the body, but we also have resistance in terms of trying to shift and free ourselves from fixed perceptions. But it is that way. They are that way. I'm sure. I'm 100% sure. So if we're 100% sure, then we're definitely not stream enterers. I could say that. If we're 100% sure about something in terms of the world. Because the world is not sure. It's meine, as Ajahn Chah saying, meine. I'm 100% sure this situation is this way. I'm 100% sure this person is that way. So that's what we're trying to free ourselves from. We're bound by that sense of certainty around the world. So then we try to practice, we try to free ourselves in this sense of resistance, but it is that way. So then what we have to look at is like, why are we holding on? What do we gain by holding on? It's like the Buddha is saying we have everything to gain by letting go and nothing to gain by holding on, but we don't yet believe that in our heart of hearts. Deep inside, we don't yet believe that. So we can't let go. So we're still stuck. So there's that sense of resistance, but then keep practicing. Keep going. And it's just ordinary, and we just keep living the life. And we start to see things a bit more clearly over time. It takes a long time. And then it's like, well, okay, that resistance was just doubt. And according to the Buddha, that's what falls away at Sotapanna, at stream entry. So just try to imagine how it would be to not have that resistance, that doubt. So it's not saying we have like 100% certainty in terms of the world, but it is saying we've let go of doubt in terms of the Dhamma. So this is twofold, like letting go of doubt, or not even consciously letting go of doubt, but doubt falls away when impermanence is seen clearly. And so that's doubt in terms of one is no longer perplexed as to what is a wholesome or an unwholesome state in the mind. And one no longer doubts Buddha Dhamma Sangha in terms of the efficacy and the power and the liberating qualities of the Buddha's teachings. And then Sakkaya Ditthi falls away, so then the Buddha talks about that as that's like personality view or the sense of self. I would think of it as like the coarse sense of self, because only at arhatship does the conceit, the mana, fall away. The thought, I am. And Sila Bhatta Baramasa, that's the kind of heard it translated in different ways, like attaching to rites and rituals, but also like attributing reality to conditions. So that comes back to that sense of certainty in terms of the world falls away. That sense of attaching a solid and real reality to worldly conditions. So you could think of Sila Bhatta Baramasa that way. But yeah, this all takes practice. We just have to keep doing it, keep doing the meditation, keep doing the daily schedule, keep considering things, keep the precepts, keep contemplating the body, keep being kind, keep being honest, developing integrity. All these qualities, the path is very integrated, it's very whole. We can't just focus on one area in exclusion to other areas. Keep trying to see, like, how am I tripping myself up with this, the craving and attachment, or self-judgment, self-criticism? How do we find balance? How do we find spiritual balance in the practice? Something sustainable, something that allows us to keep going in a way that gradually the practice deepens. And day by day, week by week, month by month, we just keep going, keep practicing, keep seeing the ups and downs of life. We live through the ups and downs of life, but with the precepts. That's one of the blessings of the practice. So these are a few ramblings for this evening, and whatever is helpful, please take it and make much of it. Whatever was not helpful, please set it aside or pick it up later when it becomes helpful. And I'll leave it there for this evening.